Hello everyone and welcome to Professional Pathshala. Today just a slight deviation from our regular topics, and we will look into the matter and the things which are going on the Indo-China border. As we all are aware that 20 of our soldiers have been martyred in the region or the area that we call as the Galwan Valley. So just a brief analysis of it in this video. We will look into the points of contention between India and China and how the hypocrisy of China and its policy of expansion has led to a trouble in the subcontinent area. Let us start from here. So as you all people, you might have gone through that there is the point called the Galwan river, right, the first one, and at the same time at the Pangong. So we will look into these two areas, and I'll also explain on the basis of my research and by accessing some of the articles that have been published through Russia, US, China and from India as well, that what happened actually on the night of 14th 15th and why the toll on the Indian side was so much, and at the same time the toll on the Chinese side was way higher than as compared to the Indian casualties. So let's get into it. So before we move towards the Galwan side, let's start from here. As you people can see, this G219 is a strategic highway of China which is connecting its all the outposts which are in Aksai-Chin area, which is illegally occupied by China. So as you can see, this yellow line, it represents the strategic highway that China has developed. So at one point this highway just diverges and moves zigzag into the borders or the areas which they have with a well connection with India. So let's move on to this area where you can see, or you might have gone through the area, that the Chinese, they are creating trouble in the finger area. As you can see, these protruders, right, you can see that these things which are, they have moved inside the lake. So these are known as the finger areas. So this area you call it as finger 4 because this is the area where Indian troops, they move, they patrol, and they move up to, or they patrol up to this point, that is finger 8. This is a finger 8, and this is the actual border. This is a border which is mutually agreed by India and China that this is a border. So what China has done, Chinese troops have entered and they have reached up to this area, and they are not allowing Indian troops to move beyond this finger 4. So now, since it is not clear in this specific satellite imagery, but if you see some of the latest satellite imageries which are available on through some of the commercial satellites, you can see that over here there are the satellites, or there are the images which we get out of the satellites, and they have some of the, if you see in detail and if you zoom it up, you can see there is a road, motorable road, which is not paved up, but there is an access to this finger 4 through vehicles as well. But beyond this point you cannot move on vehicles, and you have to do only foot patrols, as you have to climb this cliff. So as you can see that it seems convenient for Chinese to come up to this point and lay a claim over here, which is an Indian territory, that they are not allowing Indian patrols to move this point, ahead of this point. Now north of this Pangong area is the area which is in news nowadays. As you can see, the Galwan river and the Galwan valley. This is named after the convergence of two rivers, that is the Shok, and this is the Galwan river, which flows from the Chinese side. This is actually the boundary, as it's not visible from here, but the boundary moves somewhere from here, and this is a point which is the P14, the patrolling point. Till here Indian troops, they move and they patrol this whole area. This is a Galwan area. If you zoom it up, you can see this road which moves from this southern part of this area and goes up to Daulat Beg Oldie. So actually this is a strategic road on which the Chinese, they have shown their concerns, because they don't want India to develop an infrastructure which is a matter of concern for the Chinese. If you zoom this area up, you will find that there is an outpost of ITBP. As you can see, this is an outpost of ITBP, and this outpost is used to patrol these all Galwan area, and also there are some reinforcement which is ahead on this road only, and they also support the further the force deployment over here. Now the question is, what happened on the night of 15th and 14th? So as I got some inputs from various public sources, means the available on the websites and other blogs, and through some of the you can say the news articles as well. Actually what happened on that night, that as the meetings they were going on from Indian side and from the Chinese side as well, in order to negotiate on this point, India want China, as China has moved ahead and reached somewhere to these points, moved ahead from this location, means from the LAC, and they have pitched their tents to these areas, right? This which you call a southern bank of the Galwan river. This is a southern bank of the Galwan river. So what they have done, basically they have pitched in their tents in these areas, and in order to ensure that the both of the forces they move back to their location, the negotiations were going on. So what happened on the evening of Sunday, that is on 14th, basically what happened on that evening, that in order to ensure that the troops they are doing what they are supposed to, so one Indian company along with some of the soldiers and one commanding officer, they reached up to this point and just to oversee that whether the things are going smoothly. So what the Chinese did, and by the evening of Sunday, that is by the evening of 14th, so the Chinese they moved back, and they then came again with some more reinforcement. Instead of moving back, they came again on the point and started pelting stones on the Indian contingent which was present there. So as Indian soldiers were outnumbered by the Chinese, so the Indians, then more reinforcement came by the time, and by the night of Sunday this thing started to take an ugly turn. Again a meeting happened on Monday this meeting took place, and by the evening the things started getting deteriorated. So as the Chinese were asked to move back, they again started pelting stones, and they had with them the rods and having the barbed wire on them, because they were already prepared. As it is known that the Chinese, they started, once they come back on Monday, they started pitching the polar tents. As you might have seen, the tents which the people they use on the polar regions, that is very sophisticated type of tents, and they started pitching their tents so that they wanted to make a kind of, you can say, a temporary build up over there in this area. So this is my assumption actually. So as you can see that all of these cliffs, they are very steep in nature. You can see that if this hand to hand and the fist fight might have taken place on these areas, so if the fight have taken place on these areas or on the, because mostly it is said that it is taken place on the southern bank of the Galwan river, so it is possibility that it might have taken place on this area. So mostly the people, they might have fallen on this side, on this river side. So that's why the casualty was higher. And on the Chinese side also the same thing happened, because while fighting they might have fallen into the frozen river, and it was, even if it was not frozen, the temperature was around -20 degrees in the night, and it was very difficult to find the people who have fallen into the river. And even if someone moves out of the river after falling into it with some minor injuries, because that was not possible, because the slope is very high and steep, so someone if would have fallen in the ridge, from the ridge to the river, he would have got some of the serious injuries, as it you can anticipate from. If you zoom it up, you can see that the slopes are very steep over here. So if some fist fight or something has taken place over here, so the people, they might have got some of the serious injuries. And I have read somewhere in some of the articles that the soldiers have fallen into the Shok river. So if they have fallen into the Shok river, so it is the possibility that something has taken place, or either on this side or on this side, this side where the confluence of the Galwan and the Shok river, which goes downwards, the southern side of it. So you can see that this is actually the area of the conflict right now, and there is right now the force deployment. And as the news came in that the forces, they have moved back to their positions where they were before the May 5th. Now the possibility is over here is that the India and China, they are negotiating. At the same time, China is threatening India over it. So I hope our forces will overcome it and will give a proper tribute to the fallen soldiers who have laid down their lives by and in order to safeguard their motherland. So I'll try to come up with some of the more videos if I found that I can come up with. So till then, have a great time. Jai Hind.